Okay.
Cool.
Well, shit, brother. I appreciate you
happening?
sitting down with me, man.
Anytime,
right after
man.
The holiday, bro.
Yep, day after Christmas. It's just Wednesday to me.
Yeah, man. I know off camera you were sharing how the holidays were, but I mean, you guys typically do a big family thing?
Typically, yeah. I'm Filipino, so growing up, like you live with everybody, and I mean everybody. Like I basically grew up in a house with like 6 other families in a way.
Oh no way. Okay.
But yeah, like it's a little bit smaller now that I'm older. So like people make it down who can make it down, and just
Right.
like all of your family friends are also technically family. Like
sure.
we're all related somehow. There's like 5 other Filipinos in the car community that are somehow my cousins.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so like usually they like to get down, and it's just like had to get down a bit. So almost didn't make it to the interview because yeah, I don't mix darks and lights anymore, but you get forced to.
I heard you tell me a little bit about that. It took me back.
Yep.
I mean, I'm Indian, so I kind of know, bro. We got a big family too.
Oh, yeah.
So I know like second cousins, third cousins you ain't met pull up. You're like, what? Yeah, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, big family events I can't do anymore. I mean, my whole family is like scattered all over Southern California. So
Okay,
it's
for
like-
sure.
I mean, I got family in Central Coast too, but
Yeah.
it's too much, bro.
I know when we were talking about it, like during previous encounters, like you grew up in SoCal, right?
Yeah, born and raised, bro. Born and raised. It was funny because my mom came out this way first. She immigrated over in like the '60s, kind of checked it out. Grandmother came over, she came over, and then she kind of like felt out my dad when they were dating. And then she's like, "Okay, you're cool. Like, I'll disclose that I've got an American passport." And so she actually brought him over.
Okay, yeah.
So I was born out here.
Okay, nice. Yes, I was born out here too, but like my family history. So we all started in NorCal and Virginia, actually.
Whoa.
So like San Francisco area, San Jose, Virginia over by Richmond and Langley.
Yeah.
So I was brought here by military. So like World War II pops off, Philippines gets invaded. So naturally, all of my grandparents had served. So like my grandfather was in the Philippine Marine Corps, then became a United States Marine. On my dad's side, and on my mom's side, my grandfather was in the United States Army. They didn't know each other during the time. Evidently, their kids met later here in the States when they had brought them all over here. And essentially, I'm really close to my dad's side, so they're all military.
God.
Like Marines, Army, Navy.
That was like kind of the thing though, right?
Oh yeah, no, it was the thing. And it was just like, Navy is like a huge thing for a lot of Filipinos. Like they call it the Filipino Mafia. So like I grew up with a lot of military background, like being around that my whole life.
Right.
Most of my friends were military. A lot of the older cats I would hang around were military. So it was just like being kind of like enriched and all that in a way, kind of made me grow up a little bit different.
Sure.
My mom didn't like a lot of the times because it definitely introduced me to some habits and words growing up that a 6-year-old shouldn't be saying. Me being 5 years old and me watching Dave Chappelle during that time probably wasn't the best for my behavior at school.
Right. No, I can feel it.
But growing up, especially in the area that I am, like it wasn't super ghetto, but there was definitely traces of it there.
Sure.
And it was around. So that was a fun, interesting couple of years before, kind of getting into my teenage years and then moving out to closer to the suburbs, so like San Jose,
Right.
Evergreen, not really Evergreen, like East Side San Jose area.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And then I moved out here to SoCal when I was 21, over to the
wow,
Anaheim
dude.
area, so like OC and stuff like that.
Wow. I grew up, like I said, it's kind of similar because like, I mean, that was the thing to do because I feel like I mean, at least in Asian households, like, same thing with my family. Like, my dad didn't kind of get into the military route, but his dad's dad,
Oh, yeah.
they all served in some sort of capacity.
Yeah.
Also because it was like, there was like a deeper plan to it. At least I know with them, because it's it's the Asian households. You grow up, you kind of know what you're doing. You
Yeah.
go to school, you get the good grades.
Oh, yeah,
You don't
yeah.
stop there. You got to think about how you're gonna raise your family, what comes at the end of that. So we're going into like a military background meant you probably would have a service job.
Oh, yeah, most
Right, so-
definitely. With your family, I'm kind of curious, actually, was it related to a lot of like, because I know India had a long history, like British colonies and stuff like that. So like, did your family, it was like the service members, were they ever a part of that? Like some of them served like in the UK military or anything like that?
No, they didn't serve UK. It's kind of tough. I mean, I think that's probably deserving of like we could get into a really cool
Yeah.
pod on something like that. But No, I think because of the way, not getting too deep into that, but because of the way things were segregated and those lines are kind of drawn in the sand by the British or whoever, I think pride was kind of big with hometown, with the hometown, right? Serving for the hometown, your country. And then if you just really, really deep into that, at the end of the day, like my folks are Punjabi. So like they're farmers. It's like, leave us alone. We like peace and quiet, simple shit. But when it came down to it, they were down to protect what they had to. But a lot of that was interesting for me, bro, because I feel like where I was going with that was like, I was going to ask you, did you have influences of folks in your family serving like that?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Like affect how you were raised, or
Yeah,
like
I mean,
straight
it's
line?
like, I guess one of the really good ways to put it is just like unyielding loyalty to the family is like a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
Like growing up, and I was around some of my friends that weren't fortunate enough to have like that kind of dichotomy with their families. It was really interesting to me. It's like, well, that's your uncle, that's your dad, or like, why don't you ever talk to him?
Right.
Like for me, it was just like you talk to your family, and it's just like you always got to be there, like kind of like ride or die for your family. But also kind of like getting into that as I got older, it's not that it's all a bad thing and all a good thing either. There were definitely some areas in my life when I got older and I realized like really, really famous thing in the Philippines is that like what a lot of families will do here in America is send money back to their relatives.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I get it, like it's a good thing to help out the relatives back home, this and that, send them money. And the thing that I looked at it when I was older and I started realizing like, whoa, like why were we sending them money when we were over here and we were struggling, like trying to pay for rent and stuff like that? Like they all thought we were like director Hollywood, Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
like
we grew up poor too.
Yeah, and like I was just like, wait a minute, why are we sending y'all money? Like it's cheaper to live there than it is here.
Yeah.
Like, and the amount that we were sending was kind of insane. And like I definitely feel like my parents sacrificed a lot for family, not just us, but their relatives and whatnot.
Right.
And specifically for my parents, kind of their like so both of my parents have like a load of siblings. Like I'm talking like in the 20s.
Okay.
So they're both the youngest of the families, but my dad's got like 8 half brothers, 1 full-blooded brother, but like 9 half sisters, this and that. So like my grandpa on my dad's side got busy. Same with my grandpa on my mom's side, because she's got like 14, 15 other siblings.
Yeah.
So I got a huge family. Like one of our family reunions, like God, man, like just on my dad's side was like, it's like 300 people. I'm like, I don't even know everybody
That's
here.
That's why I was asking you about the holiday, because I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Because I know it can get crazy. But I love that you shared that, Arllan, because it's kind of like the perfect segue, like what I'm hoping that this can turn into for like the audience members and like what we're trying to do here is kind of honing in and like really diving in on specific things. And when you shared, like that's why your family does that, and then there's these other like intricate components with being raised in a deep family like that, right? And then not to mention, let's shift the entire family over to a different continent or state, right?
Oh
yeah. It was, and I did a little homework on you, bro, because I'm still trying to get to know you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I checked out I didn't get to check out some of the streaming stuff that you had done, but I checked out some of the YouTube videos. You were talking about one, and then I checked out one that you had done way back in the day. I mean, bro, you didn't even have facial hair yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You was with the mad baby face. And everything.
Yeah.
But my point is that from the time that I met you, kind of like in and out of meets and stuff, saw the Supra, seen the Integra, you always gave me energy, bro, that you had confidence. You had a great sense of confidence. Right, and with everything you kind of just shared about coming out of large families, right, coming into new places, one of the things that I've noticed, and I don't mean to put words into your mouth, but like, folks like us can kind of feel sometimes, is social anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? Social anxiety amongst each other, social anxiety when we go to car meets, social anxiety probably when folks come to you and they want to talk to you about advice in their car and their projects. How have you dealt with anxiety as a person?
Oh man, I'm just all anxiety. Like, I appreciate the confidence, what's the right word that I'm looking for? Like the compliment for confidence. Like, that's definitely something growing up I actually struggled with a lot. I didn't really have an identity growing up. I didn't really know what I was going to be. The strongest, earliest identity I had was military. And that's because those were all my male role models, was military or older cats from the hood that I hung out with.
Right.
So I definitely in my past, I've strayed along some paths that I have moved on from now. And would I change that? No, because I definitely think it taught me some things that made me who I am today. And confidence is still something that I actually am still learning as I go to this day. When it comes with the whole thing with social anxiety in the car community, you know, when I was first getting into it, I didn't really know anybody.
Right.
I didn't really know like what was the right information to go to. Like my pops messed with cars, but he wasn't a part of like a whole big car crew or anything like that. Like the dude just had a really nice fixed up EG for whatever reason. Before that, like he had like a GTO, a 69. Still tells me to this day, like ever since I had you little goddamn kids, like I had to get a Dodge Caravan.
Right.
There goes the GTO.
Right. Fuck.
So like nice cars were always a part of my family. Like, you know, we've all had the uncles with the Vets and the Supras and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like my uncle on my mom's side had a Mark IV Supra. That's actually the reason why I wanted a Supra too later in life, was because it was one of the earliest memories of a car that I had seen as a kid. I was like, this is a different car. Like it's something that made me excited to see as a kid.
Right. Right.
And then later on, so like when I got into the car community, getting back to the social anxiety thing, I've always hung around people that were older than me my whole life, even in school. Most of my friends were outside of high school. Either they were homies from the block or friends of like, actually my friend's older siblings, funny enough. I was
Right.
more friends with them.
Was that something you were just drawn to and being older?
Yeah, and I think because
or?
I'm not sure if it's confidence, but it's more of being around. I spent a lot of time with my pops and like my uncles on my dad's side and all my older cousins.
Right.
And spending time with them, I feel like made me grow up a little bit faster in terms of like understanding of things, not maturity wise. I feel like I didn't get maturity till I was much older. You know, you kind of just get this illusion of maturity by hanging out with older people, but
Right, I feel it.
you don't entirely know what it is to be like a full-grown adult until you actually experience it.
Oh yeah.
Others can share their experience with you, but it's like something that you have to like see firsthand for yourself and like touch with your hands almost.
100%.
But yeah, like so a lot of the older cats that I first met in the car community, I actually in high school, I was a knucklehead in high school. Got kicked out a lot.
Okay.
I was skipping school to hang out with like, because when I went to high school, all my friends were out of high school.
Right.
They either didn't go to the same schools because of moving to a different area, and or they were people I met before high school that just were way older.
Sure.
So I would skip school a lot. I did the whole fake phone call because my voice was always so deep. They call my high school.
yourself out of
My
school.
my son can't come to school today. Yeah, I actually went to court for it for a few times. I got arrested for it.
But even that, even that, I feel like there's probably layers to how you're building your confidence along the way. Like, I know you got siblings. Are you the middle sibling?
I'm a
the
middle
oldest?
child.
You're the middle child.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am a middle child. I have a older brother, a younger brother, and a younger sister. My younger sister is about a year younger.
Okay.
Older brother is 3 years older than me. Younger brother is like, God, what is he? 10 years younger than me.
Right.
So he was much later. But my parents were also like stupid young. So my dad is literally half my age. I'm 26 now.
Okay.
The man is only like 50, 51.
How does that play with confidence and building anxiety? Because I'm kind of the same. And I know when I was looking
yeah.
up to, like my dad was kind of like my friend. So
Oh yeah.
my uncles
Oh yeah.
became
No,
my
no. We
friends,
can relate
you know
on
what I
that
mean?
too. So like,
So
yeah, that was the thing. Like growing up with my dad, dude, that guy is a clown. But like, you know, I love him. And I mean clown not in kind of like a insult, but sort of in an endearing way.
right.
Yeah, because growing up with my pops, I would look at my other friends' pops, like, is that your grandpa? Like, no, that's my dad. I'm like, why does my dad still look like, you know, he's like dressing like he's from the 90s still
Yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
like wearing Raider gear. You know, like, guy introduced me to Tupac. First album he gave me was Nirvana, Bleach.
Oh, wow, bro.
So, like, he introduced me to all that, and that definitely played a role in how I was as a person growing up. Like, I still listen to all that music. Definitely, music was a big part of, like, what made me who I am today, because I was listening to lyrics that were much deeper than other kids were listening to.
For sure.
And it's funny because as I got older, I started listening to the songs that all of, I guess, my cohorts and like, you know, people I was around the same age were listening to. And I was like, it's cool, but like, I appreciated I grew up more on like, you know, like Tupac, Biggie, stuff
yeah.
like that, Nirvana, Linkin Park. Like that's all the stuff my dad raised me on.
For sure. But like, you know, like for me, because I kind of, it was the same for me, right? And I grew up in the same, like, I think my dad was really, it's because of the way he was brought up out there too, because I feel like out there, and I'm sure like you probably heard stories like this from your dad, you're out there, you're like needle in a haystack out there.
Oh, yeah.
You think it's crowded out here, it's mad crowded out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Try to build an identity out there when there's like, a billion kids going to your school,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And y'all got no money, no nothing, so you can't really build identity beyond just like what's here.
Yeah, and I think for my dad, I talked to him about it as I got older, and he started sharing more of his unfiltered high school stories with me.
Right.
He was always unfiltered with me, but there's still stuff that he hid from me as a kid. And I didn't learn until much later. Like I would look through his old photo albums, and I'm like, hey, so all your friends are wearing a certain color. Or something like that.
What's up with that?
And it's like, I started learning as I got older, like, dude, a lot of the stuff you told me not to do as a kid, and I ended up doing, you did that shit too. So what's up with that?
Right. But do you think you were kind of watching your dad grow out here and find himself, and that in itself helped
most
you
definitely. As a kid, we look at our fathers, especially have a close relationship with them, and them being that young, they kind of almost become more of like a older sibling figure in some ways.
Yeah.
Like my dad was my best friend growing up, and he still is.
Yeah.
And it's just like seeing him go through those motions and being a full-fledged adult at 23 with 4 kids.
Crazy.
Trying to take care of like us and work at the same time. And then he also went to school.
Yeah.
So like, he was going to college and stuff, and like he was trying to figure all this out, and him balancing. And back then as a kid, I didn't notice it as much, but now I'm an adult and looking back at it, also him trying to balance with some of his old homies from back in the day. Like, hey, like, how come I don't kick it with you anymore as much as I used to, this and that.
Just like life shit.
And like, now I'm going through that, like there are people from back in the day where it's like, oh, you too good for us now. You moved out to Hollywood. I'm like, first of all, it's Orange County.
Right. Yeah, stop. Yeah.
It's about an hour and a half from Hollywood.
Yeah, stop.
But it's like, like kind of seeing that and my dad always telling me like, like the importance of family and stuff like this, and people that he spent time with back then that he doesn't really see now. And I guess where that plays a role in my confidence was kind of like, he never really, as a kid, he never really let us see the moments where like things were getting tough, this and that.
Oh yeah.
And he's been through it, and it's just like, he never really showed that to us as kids, and he kind of just kept pushing on.
Right.
And I think subconsciously, as a kid, I was always really observant.
Right.
And I picked up on a lot of those things. Like as a kid, I was worried about
How can you not, man?
As a kid, like and for me as a kid, like growing up, like dude, even as young as like 6, like I could just remember like thinking about things that I knew other kids around me weren't really thinking about. Most kids those age are worried about, oh, why didn't I get this toy for Christmas, this and that.
Right.
And like I'm looking at things where it's just like, and I started noticing one of the other parents were older, like, why are my parents so young?
Yeah.
Like, my mom looks like my older sister.
Right. You
It's
hear
just
those
like,
things, think about it later, like, oh, she
yeah.
looks like your sister.
Yeah,
right?
no, but like I thought about those things a lot as a kid, and it's also just like when I started going to middle school, especially, and I was meeting like middle school and like kind of like 5th, 6th grade, and I was like meeting friends that were definitely more well off, going to their houses like Evergreen and like Nob Hill and stuff. I'm like, holy crap, man, you got like 3 floors in your house and it's just you.
I remember that too.
Yeah.
Do you think that was crazy? It's because I didn't meet anxiety at that age yet. I met anxiety probably much later, because you said something early in this conversation. You talked about like, and what did you say? You said something about like, oh, like you didn't really even kind of like have a sense of like who you were until much later in life.
Yeah, I didn't really get anxiety till like, to be honest, high school.
Okay.
High school for me was different because it was a lot of finding myself.
Right.
I was into things that not a lot of other kids around me in high school were into. And I was actually anxious in high school, but outside of high school around people that I knew, I wasn't that anxious. Around the older folk, And when it came to like high school and trying to fit in and find my identity, like I wasn't in any like sports teams or anything like that.
Yeah, me neither.
And it was just like, I didn't really hang, but it was funny because like, I almost kind of knew everybody in high school because like I just talked to people is one thing. And my one friend that I did have since middle school was kind of there with me too. And so like, he was popular, like a lot of people knew him. So by association, people knew who I was, but it was kind of like, he was the athlete guy, like he was in wrestling, did track and field, did this and that. Like all the girls liked him, this and that, my buddy Nick. And then and I was just there by association. But it's funny because I was always the one kind of like backing him up during a lot of things, and he was like the rich kid, and I was the kid from the valley.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
But that gave you confidence.
yeah, it gave me a bit of confidence, and it was just like, but still searching for who I was and where exactly I was fitting into.
Right.
Because like one day, like I'd be in high school hanging out with all the preppy kids and stuff, this and that, and like, kind of just kicking it with them, and then I would skip school and I'd hang out with the homies from the hood and like the block and stuff, like, the guys I used to kick it with way back when I was younger, and it was two different dichotomies, and then like there were definitely like the troubled kids that I'd hang out with in high school too, where like a lot of my friends that I knew that didn't really like associate with those kinds of people were like, how could you hang out with them? It's like, I was wrong. I don't get it. Like, so like it never really fazed me with that. And then I think it was starting when I started realizing like, hey, like I don't really fit into anywhere.
Was that the anxiety talking?
Yeah, I think that was the anxiety talking. Like I don't really fit into anywhere, and it was just like I knew a lot of people that knew my name in a sense.
Right.
But I don't know if I would necessarily call them friend. And there was just like and it was just like, especially with some of the stuff like I started getting into deeper and deeper in high school, I think kind of just searching for community and searching for a sense of belonging.
Yep.
I got involved with some groups I should have been involved with, like, like cutting class and stuff and that, and
more anxiety.
like more anxiety, and just like, it was just this fear of not fitting in and people not liking who I would be.
Right.
So I was trying to be something else that people would like.
Right.
And it's like, I think that's where it comes from.
The anxiety?
Yeah, the anxiety. And it was just like, especially like, when it comes to like, there was sort of like talking about the military family stuff and just like that, there was sort of an expectation that I almost set for myself, where it's like, I hear all these stories about like all the crazy stuff my grandpa did during the war. Like, dude served in World War II, Vietnam, and Korea. So like he was in it.
In it. No room for anxiety.
Yeah,
over there.
the guy was a whole like, he was like this whole like commissioner at like a military camp in the Philippines.
Right.
Like as I got older, like all my cousins would tell me that like got to really grow up with the man in his younger years. Like he ruled with an iron fist. Like he didn't give a damn. Like he was I'm gonna smack the shit out of you. You don't act right, sort of guy. So like, and all my older uncles too, this and that, were all kind of that same way. Because when they had first came here to the States, like I was explaining with my dad, seeing his old photos, like they grew up pretty hard, man. Like they were getting into some like altercations where I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. No, I remember I had stories from my dad talking about the silliest things. And I'm like, you're mad at me about what then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, wait, what? What are we talking about? But do you think, you said something crazy too, because you're getting a lot of anxiety putting yourself into situations that you feel like you need to be in, but you don't belong in. You got no business doing, right?
Yeah.
And they're making you feel a certain type of way. And you were understanding that you had a sense of like, I need community, I need a sense of belonging, like-mindedness. Is that one of your keys that you feel like you would talk to? You think that you could tell the younger version of yourself, hey, like, this is how you can beat anxiety, stop faking who you are?
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. And it's like, would I tell myself that if I had like a time machine where to go back in time, tell myself when I was younger? Honestly, probably not, because I needed that lesson. But if it comes to like, somebody telling me, because I still, like just until recently, like I'm still figuring out where exactly it is that I'm going to do and what I want to do. Yeah. I'm only 26. I'm still young.
Totally.
I used to think like 2 years ago, like, I'm guilty of it. Like, they're like, oh, I'm so old, this and that. Like, no, I'm not.
I think we all feel that sometimes.
I got a few more years before I could go and call myself that, and a lot more growing up to do. But like my younger, like, like for like younger generations and stuff, when it comes to like worrying about fitting in and stuff like that, I guess a good way to put it is that you'll find your people,
100%.
It actually took me a while before I found mine. Like I've had people around me,
Right.
And I had like my core people, but like finding exactly where you belong, I feel like everyone has to reach outside of their families at some point.
Oh yeah.
And there's communities outside of that. Like you got to be comfortable with letting your walls down, and I really think that's what true confidence is laying yourself out there and not caring.
As a true version of yourself, right? And being comfortable in your own skin, 100%.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with that more, bro. I think, like, the only thing I would disagree with is that, like, I think I kind of do agree. Because I think, like, with me, I had to go through a lot of those things. And it shaped lessons, but at the same time, I tell folks that they should start, like, you don't really got to wait for anxiety to kind of, like, to build comfort with it. Because I feel like my entire life I've been trying to figure that out, right? And along the way, I've been able to build experience with myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like those experiences is what gives me confidence. That's why I'm able to walk into a room, and then I may not have all the necessary skill sets, right? Or even like the IQ that most folks will have in the room, but my confidence comes from me being, most of the time, putting myself into challenges or rooms where I didn't know anyone, or I didn't know the situation, because my anxiety came from my ego. I wanted to put myself in the rooms where I was the biggest dog. I knew the most, because that made me feel good, stroke my ego, but that and therefore gave me inferiority complex a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I was faking it.
I definitely know what you mean, because it's like, it's kind of sort of similarly, like, I've been put in certain situations where my life where like I had to be that guy, you know? And it's like a running joke between like a lot of my friends that really do know me, but I've been to the ER almost like 20, 30 times.
Oh, shit.
I had a lot of physical injuries, but like I literally had, this one time I used to co-own a shop up in NorCal, and a weighted plate fell on my hand, like a 50-pound weighted plate, and it broke all my fingers, and then they literally exploded. Like if you look at my fingertips, I don't have like a whole lot there.
I can see it now. You talk about it.
So like I don't have fingertips, basically. Like, you know, and like I had to go to the hospital. Like it was funny. My friend Tyler, shout out to Tyler, he's like a really good buddy of mine from way back in the day, and he did the first photos of my Supra actually. But he was helping out that shop. He would do like photos and stuff, and I was running out my shop with like under my armpits with towels because I was bleeding everywhere. My left arm tourniqueted, and I was like, oh well. I'm about to bleed out. I cut an artery in my finger or vein because it was just coming out. And I had the keys in my mouth to my truck. And then it was 6 a.m. I had no idea he was coming that morning. I was going to drive myself to the hospital. And I was like, I can't wait for no ambulance.
Yeah.
So I see him. I spit the keys at him. I just go drive.
Wow.
But where that story comes from is that they had to do like major reconstructive surgery to my fingers, you know, like, and like I was in and out of the hospital like after about a day or so of them doing that. But literally the day after, I was working on a car. I was changing a clutch on a Subaru.
Damn.
But that's what I had to do.
Right.
You know, and it just comes like, with that, like, it's kind of just like, you know, like, those are things that now that I'm older, maybe I shouldn't have done that because I got what was called osteomyelitis, not like a week later. It's called, it's a bone infection. They actually were going to amputate my left hand. I woke up and I wasn't feeling right. You know, and like my dad goes, hey, you're not good.
Right.
Like we got to take you to the hospital. And like my fingers were smelling funny, you know, from all the injuries, and taking me to the hospital, and he's just like, you've got a major bone infection. So they actually had to give me like an IO and Silvadine to like fight off the infection and stuff like that.
Damn.
And it was just like, I almost got my hand amputated. And it was actually funny during the time as a younger person, like I was filled with a lot of ego and a lot of pride. Still am in some ways, you know, it's just how it is. And I literally went to the kitchen and I took out like a big butcher knife that was out there. I was like, I'm about to cut off this finger right now. Like I didn't care, you know. And my dad was like, no, go to the hospital. You know, you're stupid, this and that. I was ready to chop off like two of my
dad
fingers.
Was there.
And I was just like, I don't care anymore, you know. But like I was a hothead when I was in my younger years. But yeah, like when it comes to that and like, you know, like built like for my younger self and what I had to go through, and I feel like telling somebody else, like if there was somebody that I knew that was like 16 and was kind of going down a similar path, like 100% I would tell them, yo, you don't got to go this way.
Right.
There's another thing that you can do to get out of this. And just because I experienced it doesn't mean that you have to make the same changes.
Yeah, man,
You
no
know,
doubt.
Like, it's just like I appreciate that I went through those things and it made me who I am.
Right.
And I feel like it is my responsibility, and there's a thing that everybody that has made an impact in my life has always told me to give forward. And to me, that's a way of giving forward and letting them know, like you know, like street cred is overrated. All this stuff is overrated.
It's dead.
Yeah, like street cred is overrated. Like, you know, like you're like building this, like what kids will call aura these days is overrated.
You know, when you're kind of thinking about all that, and it's, you know, when I think about like when I really, my anxiety kind of simmered down, it's when I finally let go. Let go of trying to be something that I wasn't. And a lot of that came from like my upbringing, but I think that just goes with you being comfortable in your skin.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know who the hell I was literally until I got out the house.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes with, you know, I mean, you know, I think we all have unique families and how our families raise us. And Mine was similar to what you kind of spoke down with your relationship with your pops, right? And I think at some point I wanted to be my dad so bad because there was a sense of wanting to make him proud that it was like I was willing to be anything and everything. You know what I mean? Like just put myself out there and all that shit. Like and I think it goes into like where I landed in life, but giving in, I think, and being true to yourself and your calling, I think is huge in letting go of a little bit of anxiety. I think you don't have to wear imposter syndrome anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's easier to find folks that you do want to hang around with, you do want to share time with, and pour into because you're probably getting some of that reciprocated.
Oh yeah.
I see that a lot today, bro. I see folks have more anxiety today about things than we and you growing up. Probably more so you understand this better than I do because I'm in my 40s now, right? I'm going to be 41 this year. I didn't have like social media and other tools like that. I think we did most of our bullying like on the physical playground, right? And but then we also handled our problems there in the physical, so like it was easier to kind of get over that hump.
Yeah.
But I see kids today, I mean, a lot of young adults are in my DMs always like, dang, I wish I could do that, or dang, dude, you seem to do that with such ease or something. And it's not easy what you do, right? So like, when you're doing this, when you're hopping from your third car or you're going to a meet, you know what I mean? Like, how do you jump into your comfort zone?
I mean, when I jump into my
Or are
comfort
you
zone,
in it already?
I think it's one of those things where like now it's like I'm still kind of in disbelief what I'm able to do now. Like with all this stuff, it's just like very fortunate. Like, I felt super fortunate when I got the Supra, and like I'm extremely fortunate I'm able to, own something like this and build something like this. And it's just like where it comes from that, like I get those like people are like, oh, it's so clean, what did you do to get there, this and that. Man, I hung around with all the dumbasses back in high school and I got some dumbass shit.
Right.
And that's why I'm here now.
You got it out your system.
Yeah, and I got it out my system, and it's just like I think for me, it's kind of just like when it comes to the confidence, like coming to meets and talking to people and stuff, like I try to be as approachable as possible.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that like, if somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, like I want to own, I want to get a Type S one of these days or this and then they see what I do and they follow me on IG and they see I work with like race cars and stuff like, oh, how do I get into that? I just tell them straight up, I asked.
Right.
Like, what do you mean by that? So like every job I've ever gotten for my life was because I went in with, like my shoulders held tight, my head held high and just like, I want to work here. This is what I want to do. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of failure. And I definitely am a victim of that as well. But later on, it's kind of just like either do it or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like, we're all going to die someday.
Right. Like, like I said, bro, like having, learning more from you now than I have collectively known about you, period. That was the first thing I got. The first energy I got from you was ultra confidence, chin up, shoulders back. And that's what I'm like, so it sounds like for you, and similar for me, experience.
Yeah.
Putting yourself out there is what helped you shave down anxiety.
And it's like I said, I still deal with it to this day. And it's like, even coming into the car community, I still had a bit of imposter syndrome and like my anxiety coming into it, like when I was getting into it when I was younger and it's just like, saying things that I really wasn't, this and that, to try to like fit in. And it's like, I didn't know exactly how I was going to fit into the car community. So like, I'm guilty of all that,
For sure.
And it's just like, whether it's about like lying about times or horsepower or whatever, but you get older and you start realizing like, now, like, I don't care about how fast my car is.
Man, doesn't that feel good?
I don't care about how fast my car is. I don't care what times I'm running.
Right.
I don't care like this and that. I don't care if this car's making 1,000 horsepower. If I wanted to make 1,000 horsepower, it's because I wanted to make 1,000 horsepower.
100%. And you could if you wanted to.
Yeah. It's like if I could have, I wanted to. All it takes is time and money.
Right.
And I feel like that's something that a lot of people these days will tell themselves, oh, I lack time and money.
Right.
And to me, it's more than just, it's not you lacking time and money. It's you lacking focus, determination, and you lacking the work ethic to put yourself in that situation where you do have the time and money.
Sure. And you're also succumbing a little bit to peer pressure, right?
Oh, yeah.
Rather than building the car or what you want for yourself, you're like, oh, I need to go chase 900 horsepower.
Yeah.
Or I need to go have so-and-so wheels or so-and-so wrap my car.
Well, it's not even just that, but it's like there'll be a lot of guys where it's just like, especially when I was younger, it was just like, and I didn't really have a nice car. I was going out to all the meets. Don't get me wrong, going to meets is great, going to have fun with your friends, but that's time out of your day.
Yeah.
You got to pick and choose where you spend time and where you affiliate with versus where you want to work on yourself and everything that builds your own personal empire.
For sure.
You know, if you don't do that, then it's like, then you'll never achieve anything that you want. And that's not even just a car thing, that's just life.
Man, I could not agree more, dude. Like, you know, getting out there is so important. I think in it's just kind of on like what we're talking about, helping to, you know, to beat down anxiety, because it doesn't never goes away.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, one of the things that like I pride myself on, because I came into this game after having exited it in my younger teens, you know. So you're talking about almost a 20-year hiatus, right? And I had a lot of social anxiety. You're talking cars have changed, how we mod our cars. I mean, when I was touching cars, bro, we were swapping headlights, tail lights, putting things on the car that did not belong, right? And now you're talking about a little more of a purist era and folks that are, you know, in my eyes, afraid of collaboration and stuff like that. So like I was very weary. I was like, I didn't really know what I was to expect.
It's kind of nuts because you mentioned earlier, like you growing up and like how you guys had to handle things was more like it's face to face, you know, like people's really catching hands these days. In those days, like people were really catching hands. But like I grew up in an era where, like, I tell people like being a '90s kid, like being born in the '90s, and when you grow up through that was weird because you got a real good taste of the early 2000s and the transition of word of mouth to social media. And I definitely grew up more on the word of mouth side, especially with my pops and stuff, this and that. Like I wasn't really too much into Instagram until I turned like 18, 19, you know, but I know it came out when I was like 15, 14. But like getting into that where it was just like you see this transition, that's when I started noticing like people around me and my friends who like fell into that trend. Some of them found really great success with it. Others lost themselves in it, you know, and it was just like, it's because they want to portray themselves in a way that the whole world could see now.
Right.
And it's, it goes back to this, cause I'm a huge like history buff kid. Like I just love reading about history, but it goes back to like when the telephone was invented. And I feel like social media is in that same route. Like never in a day and age have we been more connected as a people, but so separated.
Oh yeah.
You know,
100%, bro.
it's like I could see people's posts from like Russia, from China, from Japan, and like people could see my posts, and I got people who follow me back from those areas, but do they really know who I am? Do I really know who they are?
Right.
You know, am I actually presenting myself on my feed as I am?
That part.
And it's like, are they presenting themselves in their feed as they are?
Right.
And it's like, I tell people all the time when I look at social media, there's two different ways you can look at it. It's like you got people who are either chasing clout or using it as a business tool. And it's like you see it nowadays with companies where social media marketing is a thing now. Social media spawned its own place in the industry, and it's insane.
Yeah.
You know, like it started so fast and it happened really quick where it was just like, it became one of the highest like grossing industries to be a part of.
It's so deeply connected to everything.
And it's not even just about cars. Like, you know, like continuing on that topic, it's like entertainment industry, tech companies are all over it.
Right.
You know, like medical companies are starting to look into it. You got Twitter wars on like McDonald's and Wendy's because of it.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the ability to have that.
media.
But I think that's also, I love that you're saying that because I feel like that's why it's even more important to authentically be yourself.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because at the end of the day, like, I'm a marketing kid. Like, I kind of grew up in that era. I fell into, like, the fucking digital social marketing side. And we're all working on our personal brands, too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they tease us that one day maybe we'll have a social rating, like an Uber rating. You know what I mean? Where D's rating is like a 4.5 out of 5, you know? But I think that kind of already exists because you see it, right? Like you can build clout at any volume, at any number.
Especially with cancel culture these days and stuff like that, you can get axed just like that.
100%, right? And even that, I could get into a whole on cancel culture, but my point is that if you're dealing with anxiety, right, or if you're kind of unsure about who you are, you're already doing yourself a huge disservice putting yourself out there faking who you are. I'm talking about down to you're faking your Spotify, right, to what you want to listen to. I know folks that do that. I know folks that change what they listen to when they pull up to the meet. That's not what you were listening to 5 minutes ago, right? Why'd you change it to Jay-Z?
Oh, man, I don't give a damn. I pull up to the meet, man. If I'm blasting Kelly Clarkson, I'm playing Kelly Clarkson because I like that shit.
I'm saying, but people that do that, though, people will do that. Or they'll change their fit, you know what I mean? Like, that's not how you dress on the regular, right?
Oh, yeah.
And my point is that the sooner you get to really catering to yourself, you know, the word selfish in my eyes got a bad rep.
Yeah,
it's okay to be selfish to an extent.
I've actually experienced that a lot. I used to be one of the guys, like, I don't want to be selfish. I'm trying to give myself to everything and everyone.
Right.
But now that I'm looking at things, I do need to be selfish, you know? I need to do things for myself. And and it's even just like being selfish is also being a form of being selfless, because how can I give things to people? How can I take care of the people I want to take care of and provide if I'm not doing anything for myself? 100%. I can't pour from this empty cup.
Right.
And it just doesn't, it doesn't corroborate with anything like, useful when you're not doing anything for yourself.
Yeah.
And like I didn't figure that out on my own, like I had to have people tell me that, like my best friend like had to tell me that, like she had to tell me like, you have to do things for yourself. Otherwise, like, what are you doing it for?
My thing is that if you do that a little bit, bro, I feel like you'll find purpose.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And I really think there are a lot of people out here, and I love all this because it all comes back to anxiety. If you get up in the morning and you don't know what you're chasing, you're gonna have anxiety.
Oh yeah.
What are you gonna do all day?
Yeah.
Right? When the weekend comes around and you don't know what you did this week, you don't know what you're doing next week, you don't know what's your purpose. I'm not talking about your career. I'm not talking about your gym goals. I'm just talking about what your purpose is.
And it's funny that you say that when you get up in the morning, because there was like, like I said, growing up around military, this and that, there was a really famous speech that was made in college by a Navy admiral about when you get up in the morning, the first thing you should do is make your bed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, that's like a military thing, because they want everything neat, proper, and trim. No, it's a life thing. When you get up in the morning and you make your bed, you have finished a task for the day for the sole purpose of doing it for yourself. You could do whatever you want in that day. You could, you could chase 1,000 things, and those 1,000 things may fall right on its face.
Yeah.
But when you get home, you are going home to a made bed because you did that for yourself and nothing else. And that creates sort of this mentality in yourself that you got to do things for yourself,
Right.
And it's just like, even like, let's say you live with your folks or whatever like that, still like a lot of young people do these days. 'Cause it's expensive out there, man. Damn. But people out there can't lie. I know your mom will still make you a bed every once in a while. I know mine does when she comes over and sleeps over at my house.
Yeah, I'm not mad.
So it's like, when you make your bed, it's not just for yourself, but like the people that are in the house around you. There's you already did that. They don't have to do that for you.
Yeah.
So they could go on about their day. Because when you take care of yourself, people don't have to take care of you.
Right. And that's awesome because, again, anxiety, purpose, all that stuff, it comes down to if you take care of those things, then you have something to offer, right? If you're not taking care of those simple things, then what do you have to offer your community, your
100%.
friends? You don't have anything to offer. You're just draining.
Yeah.
You're constantly just pulling from them, taking from their cups, and you're not pouring into anyone, bro, because you have nothing.
Yep.
Right? And I think that's why what you said is so beautiful, because folks need to find that to help their anxiety, to help them get out of bed, to have systematic ways to get to the next level, and those systems can change. You could do those things in different orders, right? Yeah. Those habits and stuff. But I think that's beautiful, man. I think that's beautiful. One of the things that I think that we should wrap this up with is just like how do you feel about the future? Or how do you feel about tomorrow?
For me, the future and tomorrow, it's something that I always used to have. That's another topic of anxiety I could get like 1,000 hours into. Like, what am I gonna do tomorrow? What am I gonna do in the future? But like, when I feel about the future and tomorrow, the way I look at things now is just kind of just like, you kind of just do what you can, And it's like, there's this, I'm sure you've seen the Boondocks with like Huey and Riley and stuff like that. So there's an episode where Huey's kind of stressing out about the whole day. He doesn't know what he's gonna do, and he starts freaking out. Like Huey's like 10 years old in this, so it's just like for him to be that level of like wisdom is insane. Like homie was quoting like poems and stuff like that. Like, God damn, that's one well put together 10-year-old. But there's an episode where you finally get to see him break down, and he doesn't really know what he's gonna do, and he asks his granddad. He's usually this comedic guy. So yeah, like in the Boondocks, coming back when I was talking about that. So like with Huey, you see this really intellectual 10-year-old, like who's kind of like the most well put together in the show out of the rest of the clowns. Yeah. Especially like his younger brother and his granddad. He starts to break down in this episode, which is really rare. I think it's the only episode that ever does that. And there's a part where he asks granddad, where he goes, what do you do when you feel like there's nothing you can do no matter what you do? And granddad just replies, you do what you can. And I think that applies to everything, I've had my days where it's like, man, nothing's working out. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm in this situation, whether it's financial, personal, like, relationships, emotional, whatever. And you just have to remind yourself, you just do what you can.
100%. Bro.
And a really, really good friend of mine from back in the day actually told me something really similar where, she never really like nobody like she didn't care about anything. What I mean by that is not about life, but she didn't care what anybody else had to say. And I asked her like, how do you walk through life like that? And I think that's where some of my confidence comes from, is from her. But like, how do you walk through life like that and like like not have any problems with anything? Like she had problems because she picked a fight with everybody. But like, how do you not have problems like with yourself and your decisions?
Right.
She said, okay, life works like this. And she literally like did this whole hand sign thing, like drew it out for me. What is your problem?
Right.
Goes into 2 routes. Can you do something better? Can you not? Can you not? Move on. Move the hell on. Can you do something about it? All right. What do you do to do about it? And that's it.
Straight up.
There is no middle road.
Straight up.
Can you do something about it or can you not?
Straight up.
And if you can, then stop bitching and do something about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, I kind of leave it here, right? But I feel the same way. There's only one thing that's granted in life, or 2, problems and death.
Yeah.
Everything else is a variable. Those are the only 2 fixed things that are promised in life are death and problems. You're going to always have problems. And so to your point, you can stop there at that first problem, first sign of, oh my God, right? This is it, my world's over, or you push through, right?
And it comes down to what I always like to tell people is that no matter what you think, there's always a choice.
Always, bro.
And it's like, you could blame your situation, you could blame your environment, but like I've known guys who were way worse off than me that did so much with their lives where people around them would think they should have been dead by now.
Right.
But they made the active choice to put themselves out of that situation.
Right.
To better themselves, to stop hanging around certain people, to stop trying to be a certain way, to stop trying to prove how hard they are, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And they just chose to do things for themselves and to better themselves. And they're in much better places now because of it. And I've had other homies that aren't in that situation where they kind of stayed where they were, and they're kind of in this really like kind of just shitty spot. There's no other way to say it. And it sucks to see, but they made that choice.
They made that choice. I'm a firm believer. Like I met this gentleman. It's a story for another day, and it changed my life. I think that's where I started to find a lot of like ways to beat things down and avoid anxiety. But it was just, you said it. It's just doing a little bit every day. And you define what's a dub. You know what I mean? So if I kick the ball 5% today, that's a dub because I wasn't going to kick it 5%.
Oh yeah.
So kicked it in the direction of me accomplishing something, moving something. So I feel like building on small wins has always been huge in my life because I'll be able to look at it and be like, all right, necessarily maybe I didn't win the championship, but I won a few games this year. We'll get it under my belt and I'll get it next year, right? Maybe the car didn't make it to as many events, but it made it to so many, right? It's, setting a bar for yourself and then going out and just doing it, right? Shut up and put in the work.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? And so I couldn't agree with you more on that, bro. I know this conversation gave me a little less anxiety. I really appreciate
like coming
you,
into
bro.
it too, like, oh man, what am I gonna say? This and that. But, just going about it organically.
No, I really appreciate it.
But yeah, I mean, like, even now at 26, I'm still learning more, and I'm sure I'll learn more as I'm 27, 28, 29, 30, all the way till I die.
Oh yeah, bro. That's right. And I'm really hoping that we get to do that together, with this program.
Most
you,
definitely.
me, Nick, we gonna do something amazing together, and I hope the audience loves this too. I appreciate your time, brother.
Anytime, man. No, I appreciate it.